So I'm Alex Narvey, and today I'm going to show you how I used FileMaker to make my MSP life a little easier. I'm going to race through this presentation, so don't worry about writing anything down. Just get the slides from precursor.ca/slides, and let's start with No REST API for the Wicked. Thanks for the title there, Matt. Many MSPs use Watchman monitoring as a basic part of their tool stack. It's so useful. And one of my favorite things is that it automatically notifies you about expirations for Backblaze, CrashPlan, Carrier Connect, and other software applications. You don't have to do anything at all. The Watchman agent just discovers the expiration dates and emails you these lovely notifications. And Watchman can also do this for things like domain registrations and SSL certificates. But for domains and certificates, you have to enter all the information manually, like an animal. And you can't even select the manufacturer without having added it first on a separate pane. And that's a pain. So I decided to try and use some of the programming methods I've been exposed to here to automate this process. Step one would be to acquire the expiration info online, and step two would be to populate the info into Watchman all programmatically. So starting with step one, we get the expiration info. And fortunately, there are command line tools available to do this. For example, if we do a whois command on the domain MDOYVR19, we get all this stuff. And if we pipe that output to various grep and awk routines, we can suss out things like the registrar's name and the expiry date. And here's what we get if we do an open SSL command on the certificate for www.MDOYVR.com. And again, if we pipe that output through various grep and cut commands, we can suss out the name of the certificate's issuer and the expiration date. Now, to automate these shell scripts, I recalled that AppleScript has a do shell script command, and that FileMaker can perform AppleScripts and enter the results into a database field. So all we need to do is import a list of domain names and certificate host names into FileMaker and have it run these scripts for us. So here's an example spreadsheet. And for the purposes of this exercise, I'm unofficially the MSP for MacDevOpsYVR. And I've created a group in my Watchman dashboard called MDOYVR. And I'm going to track Matt Eakes's new domain, MDOYVR.com, and his old domain, MacDevOps.ca, and the security certificates for both websites. So here's a look at the FileMaker expiration details layout. And we click the button to run the import script. And FileMaker now has some records with the Watchman group name and the fully qualified domain name that we want expiration data for. We get FileMaker to loop through these records and perform the scripts and put it in, and it collects the appropriate fields into our records. And here's an example of the script to get the info for a domain name. We click the button to start the script, and it loops through the records, and voila, we have the expiration info. Now all we have to do is push that info up to our Watchman monitoring dashboard. But how can we do that? Watchman monitoring has a REST API to interact with, and it has excellent documentation with plenty of detailed examples. According to Watchman, we have to make a post that looks something like this. And if our post is successful, it will populate our Watchman dashboard with the info and return the following JSON to us. To test this out and to practice, I used the Cocoa REST client. I just plugged the appropriate values into the URL line at the top, and I clicked the Submit button. And sure enough, I got a valid JSON file returned with all the correct details. So REST can talk to Watchman monitoring, and FileMaker has an insert from URL command that can do a post and then enter the resulting JSON into FileMaker fields. Here's an example of the REST post command from the Watchman documentation, and here's what it looks like in the insert from URL command within FileMaker. Here's a look at the records that got created in Watchman and recorded to FileMaker when we clicked the button. And now we just have barely enough time for a demo. The demo is pre-recorded, but has not been sped up. It takes place in actual time. Before I start it, you can see a Watchman dashboard with some computer expirations. And in this particular web view, the domain and the certificate expirations would appear at the top if there were any. So let's start the video and make some. First, we're going to import the records from our spreadsheet. And when we have the expiration info, the first two are going to be domains, and they're going to appear on the right. And the second two are certificates that will appear on the left. In the real world, when I used this on my actual Watchman dashboard, it took about 3.5 minutes to get the info for 65 domains and certs, and 3 seconds to push them up to the Watchman dashboard. So now we're ready to add them to the Watchman dashboard. And I'll refresh the page, and there they are. So Watchman isn't the only online service that has a REST API. In fact, it's harder to find an online service that does not have one. So FileMaker might be a good tool for you to work with to integrate your various services, especially if you're as lousy a programmer as I am. Here are some resources, including some good presentations from FileMaker DevCon, which are more detailed. FileMaker is free if you're a member of the Apple Consultants Network or a FileMaker reseller. You can get it from FileMaker's Dev subscription for, I think, 99 bucks. And it's also available as a 45-day trial. So don't worry about writing down the URLs. The slides are available at precursorca.slides. And thanks for listening. I hope you find this useful.